Right, hello. Back to some more Sveltekit. I'm gonna see how we get on. Let's do swap over to our other screen. Cool. Right. Where we got up to yesterday. So we were going through advanced Svelte lessons. Yesterday we were just having a look through motion, transitions, animations, actions, advanced bindings, and classes and styles. A few of them we've found a little bit too detailed, I think. So some of the lessons, I don't know, I think would benefit from being in different orders. Just in terms of like ramping up complexity, but I suppose this is trying to teach you on top of other language basics, so it's fair enough. But before we get started on this, I think I'm just gonna do what do I want to do? We could just jump straight into it. Yeah, let's do that. And then when we take any breaks, I feel like I'm just going to do some of these, which I've got queued up. But yeah, I think... Oh, we don't want that. We want this one. Right. So what we can do is get our app running. Ooh, we can type again. So this is just when we've been running through doing some tests. Just running through in our own project rather than through the tutorial. But yeah, we're going to continue with the tutorial now. So, as a little recap, Svelte is a tool for building web applications. So it's kind of like a JavaScript framework, but rather than like bundling it all up into the final project that you serve as your website, what Svelte does differently is it compiles your code in your dev environment into smaller, efficient JavaScript modules. So basically your site turns out high performant and very low size, basically, which means it can load the website faster, it can have lots of really nice interactivity, and everyone wins. And you still get a good dev environment because Svelte helps you out with that. So if that sounds of interest, check out the last 2 streams that we've been running through this. But we're on to component composition. So, looking at Svelte components, just like elements can have children, so like a div with p tags inside, so can components. Before a component can accept children though, it needs to know where to put them. We do this with the slot element. Put this inside our card.svelte. So we have our root app that we're importing our card component from here, which has these paper and wood SVG elements in it as some of its backgrounds. So we just add a slot inside the card component, and that means when we import it into our app.svelte root file, when we use the card element, we can pass things into the middle of it. So for example, I don't know what we're going to be doing, but we can put an H2 in here that says I'm inside the card. Ooh. And yep, so that passes this H2 HTML element to our card component, and it gets rendered inside this slot. So anything in the slot takes on the stylings given here. Right. So now we can put things in the card. For example, they're going with the American Psycho route. With our span chose Patrick Bateman. And a secondary span, Vice President. But I think we're going to make some changes to this, right? Because we've got headers and footers and stuff that aren't being used yet. So I'm assuming the next lesson will continue on this idea. But we could, I think, maybe put in a header here. First. And does that take header styles, which would be width 100%, display flex, justify content space between? Interesting. So let's say within this test, we have, let's do a couple of p tags. Element 1, another p tag with element 2. Yeah, so that's doing the justify content space between, I think. So we change this to no, justify content. What's some other options? Space evenly. It's going to do the same thing, isn't it? Let's do padding 30 pixels. Maybe it's not applying the starter. I think it should. Let's have a look. So if we inspect that element, which is our header in here. So this header here is not getting the card header styles. Which would have thought it does. Okay, so because we're passing the slot from outside the app, it doesn't. So if we do a header, tag here, let's just do the color red. Right, okay. So just to confirm, it's definitely not taking this header here. We'll put like blue. Yeah, it's not. Okay. Even if we comment this out. Oh, I keep doing save. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. So if we pass child elements into a component, it's not taking the styles in here. So at the moment, these styles are doing nothing. So let's move on to the name slot. Yeah, here we go. So the previous example contained a default slot, which renders the direct children of a component. Sometimes you'll need more control over placement. In these cases, we can use name slots. So inside the card component, we've got a span slot telephone. Do we? I don't see those in there. They're asking us to add them. Right, so we're going to add in here our header. Sometimes the also complete works here. And within that, we're going to add two slots. One slot with a name of telephone. And close that slot out. And one slot with the name of company. Ooh. Right, and then we're also adding a slot in a footer. So if we add our footer tag here, another slot here with our address. Then that gets rendered at the bottom. Okay. So because we're using the slot telephone here. Oh, wow. Okay. So this is basically just giving us things to use within here. Is this small doing anything? I don't think it is. If we enlarge this a little bit. Oh, it is slightly smaller. Okay. But what this is showing us is what we could do is just repeat slots that are named anywhere pretty much. And it's like a reusable component to use within inside the card. Okay, so let's take those off. So we need to add some styles to the small element in the app.svelte so that it occupies its own line. So at the moment, because it's all together, the content of the card inherits styles from card.svelte, such as font family. The lettering is something called Cillian rail. Okay, but normally scripting rules apply. We need to add styles to the svelte.app because that's where this small element is. Okay. Yeah, so the styles that we apply to the card or the header are all applied here, right? So our font face is set here. But the small style here, we're going to add in. And we're going to say display block, so it renders on its own line. Should do. Font size 0.6 EM. Why is it not on its own line? Text align. Right. That doesn't look right to me. Alternatively, we could use the global modifier instead of the card.svelte to target all small elements inside card, which we don't want to do, I don't think. Why are you not on your own line though? What's different there? Undo that and redo it. Oh, because it's block, not quotation marks. Nice, okay. Next, slot fallbacks. A component can specify fallbacks for any slot that are left empty by putting content inside of the slot element. Ah, okay. So in our card, so at the moment we have our main card with all the info in, and then we've got an empty card. So if inside of our slots here, so we're going to have to close them out and give them a closing tag. And inside this slot, we're going to say iTelephone. So in italics, telephone. Header attempts to close an element that was not open. It is open though. That opens and closes properly. Company, we're going to do the same. But with company name in here. But why? Let's reload this. Attempts to close an element that was not open. We open our header. We open our slot. Oh, it's because that's the wrong way to close a slot. Right, and then same with this one. Helps if I understand basic HTML. Right, okay, so now this puts it's like a default value. So I want to do the same for the name. This main slot. And I want to do the same for the address. And this is going to say name. And this one at the bottom is going to say address. Cool, okay. That's very useful. So up next, slot properties. Components can pass data back to their slotted content via slot props. In this app, we have a list of named CSS colors, okay? Typing into the input will filter the list. Right now, every row is showing Alice Blue, and as lovely a color it is, that's not what we want. So open the filterable list.svelte file. The slot is being rendered for each filtered item on the list. So the slot here, this slot is being rendered for each item on the list. That we pass back. Pass the data into the slot. Okay, so for each item in data.filter matches, so matches is our regex item, right? So search. So search is an empty string. So if search doesn't exist, then we return null on the regex. So matches is null. Therefore, matches equals true. So it returns all items. If there is a search, we do a regular expression search and I. How does this work? Constructor function. What's the I doing? Constructor with string pattern as the first argument. Two ways, object notice. Okay. It's pattern between two slashes, followed by optional flags. Yeah, where are the flags? Flags in constructor. Where do we have constructor flags? Here we go. Do we have to look in here? Nope. Wait, there's a link there. Flags, here we go. Case insensitive search, right. So we're saying our regex is a case insensitive search, and we're testing it against item field. Which becomes our filter. Okay, so our filter is given an item and it performs this if statement where if there is a filter, we run the search, this regex search, and test if the item field, where's field? What's passed in as field? Field equals name. So we're looking at the name of the item. each data.filter. And the data is our colors, which is here. Right, so I think we're getting there. So we're filtering this data array based on the name field in this instance. And we're testing it against the regex, or which is comparing the search term against that name. And it's returning a list where that search term appears in the field name. So if everything's hooked up, we should be able to do something like, if I can type. Is it only returning the first instance of it? So why is it returning stuff like this? So it is doing a match on it. And the filter can be anything in the name. But why would F return? Only some of them. I'm confused about that bit. I think it's not hooked up properly first. All right. So before we look at this properly, let's see if we can figure it out ourselves. So we have our filterable list, and we have our colors from color.js. Let row equals color 0. So row starts as this row. We get row.hex for each of the rows. Oh, this is all the filterable list. Okay. So we want to pass back something for the value of row, right? I'm going to have to look up. Okay. So passing the data into the slot item as another contents item is shorthand for setting a property of item and setting it to the value of item in this each loop. Okay. Then on the other side, expose the data to the slotted content with the let directive. Right, okay. So we're saying here, let item equal row. Right, okay. So we have this header, which is these across the top. And then we got another row here. Okay. And for the each block as we iterate over in here, this content, we have a slot for each item. This is our default slot. Right, okay. So this header is passed into filterable list as an HTML element to fill the slot that is labeled header, right? So in here, we have the slot name header here. And basically what that first bit's doing, let's make this simple. It basically is cutting this out. it's going into here and it's replacing this header slot with our header. But we now don't have to reference it, so let's get rid of that, and then we should be back to it's not going to work because the CSS for the grid is all in here, but that's basically what that's doing, but applying the CSS from the other file. So let's go back to with the slot here, and we'll bring back our header in here. So because of grid, we're just doing some magic lining these up. CSS doesn't quite work the same, but that's basically what it's doing in terms of the HTML. Right. We have two inputs into the filterable list, which are data and field. Field we're setting as name, just as a string, and data is taking the full colors array from colors.js, right? And this let directive is setting the value of row. So we don't need this at all now. And we're basically saying in this line, create a variable called row and let the filterable list tell us this item. Tell us the value of row from this item. So as it loops through this data with its matches, we're passing the item back up to app.svelte. And then we are looping over the object to look at various properties and to print this out. So what we could do instead is in our field name, row.rgb is not in here, right? We just got hex values here. Oh no, okay, wait. We're calculating the hex values, the HSL values. Okay, I thought it was just hex and name here. Colors, data map, X name, give it the RGB, and it's returning the whole thing. Okay, so the array that is being exported from colors is an array with all of these values in each element. So in that case, we should be able to filter. So let's just test this working first. Let's search for like UA. So we get all the aquamarines. If we just search for ER, we can see that we're looking at the whole string and finding any matches. And it doesn't matter if this is capitalized or anything, because it does a case insensitive match. So that's how that's working. But what we could do is swap this over to like HSL, and we could search for like 208. So let's search for like 95. So anywhere in this string, if there's 95 in this HSL, we're getting that back. So if we add a comma here, then it filters out that last one that was a percentage. Or if we add the percentage, then it filters out the other two. Cool. Okay. And it's doing that by doing each loop over the data. Nice, okay. Name slots can also have props. Use the let directive on an element with a slot equals attribute instead of on the component itself. Sorry, what? What? Name slots can also have properties. So like this name slot. Oh, in which case we use the let directive on an element with a slot equals attribute instead of the component itself. So what that's saying there is here, where we've got a named slot here, we could add a let directive here. And let's just call this let's title equal I can just do title, right? Can I just do this? And instead in our color here, we're going to put closing brace. We're going to put our title element, right? We're going to put title in there, and then we're going to close out our span tag, right? And then in our filterable list, where we've got our header slot here, we can pass up title equals best. Does that work? It needs to be in this. Title is not defined. Now it is though, isn't it? We're saying this slot here how about if we send the search up to title? And then in here, let title here. So this should be defined now, I think. What would we just say, like title equal oh wait, we've got to search. Yeah, okay, cool. I was like, why is it not printing out title here? It's because we didn't put anything in the search parameters. It doesn't like the rest of the functionality now, but that's fine. Cool. So that's what it's saying there is we can put the let directive directly on the named slot element that goes into it, and we can bind values directly to that slot to give it to pass it back up the chain. Bit confusing, but I think we got there. So checking for slot content. In some cases, you may want to control parts of your component based on whether slotted content was passed in. For example, if we removed the header from app.svelte, right? We're left with an ugly double border because filterable list is still rendering the div class equals header. Right, okay, yeah. So this is what we were trying to do before, but because we've got this div class header around the header slot, even if we remove the actual content of that header slot that we're passing into the component, we get this double line here because we've still got a div there that's just empty. We can fix this by using the special slots variable in the filter list attribute. Okay. So a wrapper around this with an if clause. If our slots.header exists, And then we just need to close out the if block. So it's only rendered the contents of this block if the slot that is called header is populated. So if we do H1 or H2 even, slot equals header, and we close that tag, then it should now render out the double line, even though it's still empty. But this is our header line, and now we should get that drawn in. Nice. Cool. Right, up next, context API. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's not much left to do of the advanced Svelte. And then we might start on some basic Sveltekit today, but we'll see how far we get. The context API provides a mechanism for components to talk to each other without passing around data and functions as props, or dispatching lots of events. Context API is a method for components to talk to each other without passing around all the data or dispatching lots of events. It's an advanced feature, but a useful one. In this exercise, oh god, we're going to recreate Schlotter by George Ness, one of the pioneers of generative art, using the context API. Let's have a little look what Schlotter is. Okay, so lots of blocks that slowly go out of alignment, basically. So we're going to have a load of boxes, and then over time, we're probably going to change rotations and stuff like that. Cool. Inside the canvas Svelte component, there's an add item function that adds an item to the canvas. We can make it available to components inside canvas, like square, with set context. Okay, so we have a canvas here, and we have a component square inside, but we want the function add canvas that is available, sorry, add item that's available here to be usable by the square component, which is nested inside, I think. Okay. So we want to import set context from our Svelte library. And then under the onMount function, we're going to call set context, and we're going to pass in canvas and the add item function. Okay, so set context. Do we get any no, we don't get any context help here. Right, inside child components, we can now get the context with get context. Okay, so we're setting the context here, and in this function we're now going to say import get context, just the function inside the library from Svelte, and then we're going to add in the function called here, so get context. Okay, right, called canvas. Now I think this is just a name that we're giving the context. I think that string there is just a name for the function for it to look up. Add item draw. Okay, so let's just test. This is going to be our context name, I'm going to call it. So this is going to fail now because it has no matching context. But if we also call it context name here, yeah, okay. So this could be, if I wonder if we can do multiple. So add item and draw. This is the function, right? So how is this getting draw? Oh, this is our draw function in here, right? That's a bit more confusing. So let's call this draw rectangle. No, draw, what's this? Items for each. Let's call this draw all, because I think that's what it's doing there. So if we do here, this is the canvas add context, and we're going to call this canvas draw all. I don't know how this works, but we're just testing to see if it is how it works. So then in here, we want the canvas add option. Oh, and also we need to update draw all here because we changed what it's called. Right, okay. So in our square, we're getting access to the canvas add context, which allows us to call this add item, and we're passing in the function draw. So then add item has a function. And we're calling items.add. Each array. It's blank. What is, I don't know what this means. I guess this means we don't need to name it. We don't care what this is called. It's like a throwaway name. So our draw all function clears all of the rectangles off of our canvas. CTX. Yeah. CTX is the canvas context, which is the same thing here. We're using get context here. So canvas must have an export. Yeah, this canvas that we're passing this reference to has a set context on it for the 2D environment. And we're assigning that to this CTX property that we've got here. Okay. Where's this CTX? We're saying when we call the draw function with CTX. So this just allows us to draw a box or a square onto the canvas at XY coordinates, which are set external to us in here as this X and Y. Okay, I think we're getting there. So far so boring. Let's add some randomness to the grid. So our X and Y coordinates, we're now saying we're adding this jitter, which is just a random amount. Okay, that's fine. Plus jitter R times 2. And And then this one's plus jitter of r times 2. Okay. So based on the row, so we've got 12 columns and 22 rows. So as the row increases, we're adding like more and more jitter. And because it's random, each time we make a change here, it's going to get a slightly different image. Cool, okay. Oh, and we're adding a rotate property, which is available in here as well. Rotate. So we're passing just the rotate value into the rotate function. See, this is where things like, I think it would be better if we did like angle here, because then it's clearer that we're rotating by an angle. Isn't it? So in here, I don't know why it's shifted over, but we're going to say rotate equals, sorry, angle equals jitter, jitter. Oh, it needs to be in our braces. Jitter r times 0.05. Cool. So yeah, we're pretty close to the Schlotter picture there. Okay. I think that all makes sense so far. Hey, how's it going? I'm good, thank you. Just trying to get my head around some of these Svelte concepts. It's, some of them are a little bit tricky, but I think with enough time and enough persistence, I'll get through to it. How's your Wednesday been? So we have passed in. I'm sure this underscore is just throwaway. No sound stream. Should be sound. I hope. It's showing up on OBS. Should be sound. You know what? Can you not hear me? I hope. That'll be annoying if it's been muted somehow. Okay. That was scary for a minute. An hour into a stream and finding out there's no sound to it. Sorry. No worries. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. What I was saying is, yeah, just working my way through some of these advanced Svelte concepts, and with enough persistence and time, I hopefully should be able to figure them out or understand them a bit more. But yeah, going well, thank you. Svelte is it's used for web development. So if I go back to this list, this is their description of it. It's a tool for building web applications. It's basically a JavaScript framework, but where it differs from other frameworks is rather than pushing the whole framework up to your website, so that when users come to the website, your server or their client-side browser can undo all of the framework stuff to be able to render it on their end in their browser. Whereas Svelte instead compiles all your code from your development environment into like efficient JavaScript, so that what's actually put up on the server and on the website is just like small bits of JavaScript rather than the full framework library, if that makes sense. That's kind of the way I'd describe it. But yeah, basically just think of it as like a JavaScript framework like React or Angular or any of those kind of things that allows you to write website code a little bit easier than having to worry about what's the most efficient way of writing this code. Yeah. Well, cleaner like websites, like you get better performing websites. I think if we go to their site, you can see examples where, let's say, if we're just like clicking through to each of these items, we should see it's quite snappy. There's no loading in between. That's on hold for a little bit, but basically I've got a couple of websites as projects that I'm doing at the moment for like friends of friends and clients and stuff like that. And they're at the end of the design stages now. So I'm basically looking to, well, I'm going to be building them over the next like month or so. And I just wanted to do a little brush up on my Svelte knowledge so that I can build the websites properly and hopefully end up with a template that I can use for future sites if I feel like it. Because also I think it's going to be useful to be able to spin up websites quickly for any future games and stuff like that as well. So that should be good. You're going to build with database. Well, the sites I'm doing at the moment don't really require any backend at all. If we're going to use anything in terms of databases, it's probably just going to be a couple of blog entries and stuff like that. So it doesn't really need the database side of it. But if I do work with databases, I'm going to be looking at either Firebase or Superbase and going along those routes. Just because it's so much easier to integrate. I'm not interested in looking down. I'm interested in the solution if I go with the databases. Yeah, I think I'm not overly fussed about like the standard. What do lots of people go with? I think the standard recommendation when you start off is like look into MongoDB and all those type of structures, or you look into SQL or NoSQL and that kind of stuff. So I have had a little bit of experience with database in the past, but yeah, that's one of the big problems. It all depends on the structure of your data, I think. But with most of the stuff I'm going to be doing, it's very simple data structure. Yeah, that's always going to be the tricky bit as well. Like you can store stuff on file based on whether or not you need to use it and you have consent to store it. But there's all the GDPR laws in Europe that are the main concern for me. And yeah, there's loads of stuff. There's loads of stuff to consider if you're storing personal information. And yeah, the more personal the information is, the more strict your storage like responsibility is, your liability is. So yeah, if you can avoid storing anything that's personal, that's definitely the best route to go down. So ask users for usernames rather than email addresses or stuff along those lines. But yeah, like you say, it's with legal stuff, the best option is normally to avoid anything that has the tighter regulations unless you have to use it. But yeah, so oh yeah, when you do online purchases, it gets scary to ask what you need. There are other ways around that kind of stuff as well. So for example, with online purchases, using third-party services, so for example like Stripe or stuff like that, I think you can get around it by not having to take any of the information, and Stripe handles it all their end. So you just have a little you have an iframe, I think it is. Wait, where are we? With Context API. Yeah, so you have like a connection to Stripe. You give them a transaction number, for example, and like the amount that needs to be charged, and they handle it all on their end to say, okay, we've got this transaction ID, we have the amount that needs to be paid, and we will send you back a message saying that this amount has been paid via Stripe. We'll send you the money into your Stripe account, but we don't need to give you any of the users' payment information at all. We can just give you a transaction confirmation number, so you can cross-reference it against a value that's come into your account. But not necessarily, because they can have an account with Stripe. Yeah, I think they do, because it's the same. There's a lot of like if you especially look at stuff like Instagram merchant stores, when you click through to them, they'll take you to a page that's normally like a Stripe store or one of those services. What's the other ones that there's something like WordPress. I can't remember what it's called at the moment, but basically along the lines of they give you a page for selling stuff, and it can use all your like pre-saved card information if you've used their systems before. I'm just trying to remember what it's called. Oh, stuff like Shopify, isn't it? So rather than basically Shopify, I think what I understand is it's along the same lines of like a WordPress site, where they give you a page that you can configure on your end, so you can apply your branding, all that kind of stuff, but it's run on their site. Yeah, I think that's like, I haven't looked too much into it, but I did have a little play around previously, and that's kind of my understanding of how it works, and that's how you avoid having the liability of any like transaction information. And the added benefit is I think they can handle all of the like refunds or returns or any issues and stuff like that as well. It's worth looking into things like Stripe APIs and Shopify, especially if you're doing like solo development of stuff, because you obviously won't have a legal team that can help you out with this kind of stuff. But yeah, no worries. Hopefully that was useful. It might not be 100% accurate. Like it was a little while ago that I was looking into this kind of stuff, but that's my kind of understanding of what those systems and services can do. So yeah, hopefully that's useful. Right, so what we were looking at here is this set context functionality. We had drawn in all this stuff. So I'm just going to click solve again so we can see the results, hopefully. Thank you all. Right, so what we're saying here is in our canvas, we are exposing this add item function, which is this item, this functionality here. via the set context API. And then in Square, we're using the get context functionality from Svelte to retrieve that function without having to pass data around. Yeah, yeah, definitely. My plan in terms of Unity stuff is once I've got these websites out of the way, then I should, well, I'm hoping to focus full time on game development stuff. I mean, obviously, occasionally I'm going to have to do projects and stuff. Well, depending on funding and all that kind of stuff. That's all future plans. But yeah, hopefully from mid-September onwards, should be doing a lot more pixel art and Unity stuff. So fingers crossed for that. And yeah, sounds like a plan. I know that there's the next Luden Dare, the game jam, is the end of September. So I have to see what we can do with that. Right, so like lifecycle functions, the set context and get context must be called during component initialization. The context key canvas, in this case, can be anything you like, including non-strings, okay? Which is useful for controlling who can access the context, okay? You don't know, you might need some practice first. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I kind of want to find some longer time frame game jams as well, because I did start looking into the GMTK game jam that happened a couple of weeks ago, and even sat down and did some like brainstorming for ideas, but the 48-hour window of like development was just too short for me. I think I got like 4 hours into it and I was like, there's no way I'm reaching any kind of scope that is manageable in this time frame. So I thought it's better off just to get on with the web development projects and step out for that round. Yeah. But I do know that if you know, there's a Twitch channel called Pirate Software. And they run game jams a couple of times a year, and they do a 2-week game jam where like the first week the main aim is to create a game design document, so like come up with all your features and the way the game's going to work, and then the second week is for the development of that game. So obviously you can start stuff in the first week, but the main idea is to like really formulate a game and figure it out. I think if I do, is it this? Pirate Software. Hopefully. Yeah, there you go. There's a link to their channel. But, they do a lot of really interesting software development, and their streams, they're it's normally, I think it's only Thor that runs that channel actually. Yeah, I was gonna say it's pretty good. It's Heartbound developers, but he talks a lot about like ways to run your games and monetize your games and stuff like that. And actually, let's see, do I have to bookmarks here? Yeah, he's got this site here. Oh, have I got it? For game development that I'd highly recommend checking out. Which is here, develop.games. Basically gives you ideas of like what skills you need for making games, where to start, look for like how do you build a team, what tools you can use, like basically fully end-to-end for indie developers of how to how to do things, like even like how to raise money, how to advertise, like scams to be aware of, like amazing, useful information here. Highly recommend checking it out. And like even where's the best place to launch your games? You can do it in Humble Bundle on Steam. Things to yeah, even stuff like this of like how the advertising works. But yeah, highly recommend also like just listening on some of his streams, because A, he's got an amazing voice, but B, he talks about like how to how different games run well and things they've done right, things they've done well, things they haven't done so well, all that kind of stuff. Really useful. Right, so we were just having a look here. The context key canvas in this case can be anything you like, including non-strings, which is useful for controlling who can access the context. I'm not entirely sure I understand how is that useful for controlling context. Your context object can include anything, including stores. This allows you to pass values that change over time to the child components. For example, we can set a context with a writable store of count into my context, and then in the child component, we can access that store via get context. Okay. That's useful. I feel like I need to play around a bit with this to fully understand the power of this, but I think this is going to be something that's very useful to use. Get and set context is super handy, I think. Right, special elements. What have we got left? We've got special elements, module context, miscellaneous. Okay. Yeah, let's work our way through the special elements, and then I'm going to do a little break. So Svelte provides a variety of built-in elements. The first, Svelte Self, allows a component to contain itself recursively. Oh god. Right, okay. It's useful for things like this folder tree view, where folders can contain other folders. Right, okay. So in our folder.svelte file, we want to be able to do this, which is recursively call ourself. But that's impossible because the module can't import itself. Instead, we use Svelte Self. Okay. So this is like recursive calling. That's quite useful. So if... Right, let's just understand what we're doing here. So our file is a span here with the name of it, and that's it. Name.last instance of +1. So this type is the icon. So here in our app, we're importing our files from data.js, right? So this is our list of files. And this has a format of a name of the object, and then any files contained with it is an array within that object. And the array is an array of objects inside, right? Okay. So where we have files nested in files, we have a name for the overall folder, let's call it. So files is basically a folder. And individual objects in a file, in a files folder. God, not the most easy to wrap our heads around. But yeah, individual files are objects in the array of files, which itself is a folder. Right, so type is name.slice, last index of... Right, okay, so this type is looking at our folder name and slicing from the final dot to the right. So for example, finding the GIF or the .md, and it's doing a lookup to find this file type and find the SVG image, which is this little image here, of the specific type of the file. So that's what that's doing. Oh. And here we are calling folder with the name home, passing in files as files from our data, and expanded because we can click and hide. Hey Runa, how's it going? Some more web dev and Sveltekit today. Hope you're having a good day. How do I pronounce your new username? Because the first time I saw it, I thought it was Hit Regalmon. But I feel like it's the lemon. No, your Twitch username. Oh, you prefer Arena. Facecam, I have actually considered it. I think when I start doing Hit Reg as a team, right? So Lemon's your like team, your player name in game. Nice. Yeah, I think I am planning to get a face cam at some point. I think my little laptop one is crap though, so I'm not intending to use that one. I want to get a proper setup first. Yeah, they still look the same as that. I mean, basically it's just a pixel art version of that picture that I've done. So the profile picture now is kind of the same. No, that was me. I wonder if... Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, that one, wasn't it? So it is pretty similar to my current profile picture. I just tried to convert this into a pixel art image. Yeah. Just using someone random instead. I mean, it's a good way to throw people off your scent. If you don't want people doing some like social media searching and all that kind of stuff. But I'm also fairly sure that like multiple times on old streams, I've got my my email address shows up, like my name shows up. Right. I think that the information's out there already, but I want the channel to become more of a pixel art and 2D games development thing in the future. So that's why I've gone with the pixel art profile picture. But yeah, I am planning to do. Go on to that random guy because I think it's you. You get to cause a lot of hassle that way around. But yeah, I am planning to do camera streams later on. But yeah, I think it's better once I've got a proper setup. And also when I start doing that, I need to think about like what's in the background as the camera and all that kind of stuff. I know you can. I'm not sure I can be bothered to get a green screen. No, it's fine. I've not got too many bits to get through, so it's not too bad at the moment. Don't worry. And that's the point of streaming it as well. So you have some interactions that allow you to meander away from the topics a bit. If I just wanted to work through the tutorials, I could easily do the recording in OBS and do that instead. But it's much better to have some interaction, I think. Right, so what we're saying is in our folder, we want to be able to recursively look inside our file's data structure. So this file's keyword here, we are passing in the files from our data.js file. So we're passing in this big array. Oh, we're not passing in the whole array, are we? Why are we specifying? This should be the default export. Okay, no, ignore me. That's just oh, no worries. Thank you though. What's wrong with the internet? Got a bad connection today. Right, so we're passing that files array into our folder element here. Expanded is our class here. And when it has the expanded class, we open this folder. And we also look at the sub files of our list. We get the name from the external call of this. So if our folder structure is expanded, we loop through our files array, and for each entry in the array, we run this stuff in the middle of a forest. You're doing some camping. So for each line of our array, we check if there is a files property of that line. Otherwise, we output our file and we spread the properties of file, which is our name and our type. No, just our name. Oh, right. Each files as file. Why are we spreading the property of file? What if we weren't doing that? What if we just pass in file? I don't get why we're spreading this. Because if this entry just has a name entry, it only has the name property, right? I'm a bit unsure why we're doing that, because we're already iterating it over here. Okay, well, let's just do our bit here. So we're going to say if there's a folder within the file that we're looking at, we need to call Svelte Self. And we need to pass to ourselves the file's information, right? And then we can close. But it's saying we spread it. And we get rid of this. Right, so if there's a subfolder within our current line, so can we have this side by side? No, we can't. Can we pop it out? No, that's the output. So let's duplicate this for a minute. So we can look at this structure and our folder at the same time. Right. So in our folder here, we're saying each line, each entry, let's call this entry in files, just because it makes it might make it a little bit easier to understand. So our first entry in files is this. Which does have a files entry. So we call the folder component again, but just with this structure, which is name of important work stuff, and files is just this array of the one item of quarterly results. So in that component, we see our entry as being name quarterly results. There's no entry.files this time. So we just call file with name quarterly results. Oh, okay, we have to spread this because what we're actually doing is doing entry.name. But if there were more things to do, I think. No. Oh, because we don't know the structure of entry. Entry, so we could do entry 0.name? No. Why is that not working? Right, so I'm confused why we can't do that. If entry.files exists, which it doesn't in this case, we're at this level. We just have a name variable, right? So why can't we do that? I'm kind of confused why that's not working. The property name is name. It's expecting a close brace, but we've got a close brace here. Oh, of course, we need a name equals entry.name. God, sorry, being a bit stupid there. It works with the spread. So because we were spreading out this entry here, that was saying name equals name underneath the surface. But because we're then applying it to entry.name, we can't use the short form of this because they're not both called the same thing. Cool, okay. It's important to go over the bits that we don't understand as well, and like try and break it so that we run into issues like this where we can actually test ourselves on why things aren't working. Cool, okay. So that's quite interesting, being able to recursively call a component within itself and just passing in different properties each time you shuffle down the tree. Cool, next is the component. Oh, let's do it in our regular window. Right, a component can change its type altogether with Svelte's component. In this exercise, we want to show red thing.svelte if the color is red, or green thing.svelte if the color is green, and so on. We could do this with a sequence of if blocks, but that's a little bit cumbersome. Instead, we can create a single dynamic component. Ooh. Interesting. So rather than doing this if block, we can say we could bind our selected value from the drop down which starts at options 0. And we can call our Svelte directive Svelte component and we're giving it a this equal to the selected dot components, right? So this is saying, based on the value of selected, right, so there's nothing special going on in these. How is options? Oh, right. Sorry. So with our drop down here, when we select an option, selected becomes equal to one of these rows. So if we access the component property off of the selected entry, we can access which component to use, and it just works like that. It's pretty useful. This value can be any component constructor or a falsy value. If it's falsy, no component is rendered. So this can be any component constructor, or it can be falsy. Okay. Up next, Svelte element. Similarly, we don't always know in advance what kind of DOM element to render. Svelte element comes in handy here. As with the previous exercise, we can replace a long sequence of if blocks with a single dynamic element. Okay, so in our app.svelte, okay, so if it's h1, Oh, okay. So what we're saying here is our svelte element. This equals selected. And within this, we're saying I'm a code. And less than symbol. Selected. With greater than symbol after. Element. And I need this to be semicolon. And then we're closing our svelte element tag. I wonder if we can pass classes and stuff onto these elements. So based on this input here, which we can select on our selected dropdown, we can change the type of element here. So H1, H2, H3, paragraph, or a marquee. But we can directly overwrite this with like P, right? So even though our dropdown is other things, we're rendering it as a P tag because we're telling it that it's a P tag or an H1 or an H3. Okay. Svelte window. Just as you can add event listeners to any DOM element, you can add listeners to the window object with Svelte window. We've already got a handle keydown function declared. Now all we need to do is a keydown listener. So on our Svelte window, at the moment we've got a keydown event, which doesn't do anything, right? But we need to apply the listener to the window. Handle keydown. So now, okay, cool. Why does space need to be separate? But enter still works. So this is basically saying, rather than applying this keydown event listener to like the div here, we can just apply it to anywhere in this window, and we're going to pick up the keydown event from the user anywhere in the window. Okay. And you can add event modifiers like prevent default. So rather than having tabs that tabs out into this focus in the corner here, we can do we just do event.prevent default. Default. And now when we tab, well, we are still tabbing around, right? Oh no, we do it here, don't we? We do this pipe. So, event prevent. That's how we do it, I think. Doesn't like it. Why does it not like it? Prevent default is not defined. Have I spelled it wrong? No, that should be right. Oh, it's the wrong place, that's why. So it should be here. Prevent default. That's it. Okay. So now when we tab around, we're not we're not being tabbed around the screen. But if we tab here, oh, or if we tab around here, we can see that the focus is like dotting around different things on the screen based on the tab order. But if we're in the window, then it shouldn't allow us to escape, right? Oh no, because we undid. Event. Default. Type. Right, so yeah, now it's locked into the screen. Cool. Window bindings. We can also bind certain properties of windows, such as scroll Y. So in our window here, we're going to say bind scroll Y equals Y. So now, as we scroll, our Y value should be increased, right? So as we scroll down the image, it shows us our Y position in the window. Okay. Similar to Svelte window, the Svelte body element allows you to listen for events that fire on document.body. This is useful with mouse enter and mouse leave events which don't fire on the window. Okay. Add the mouse enter and mouse leave handlers to the Svelte body tag. Right, okay, so on mouse enter, we're gonna call the function here kitty, and we're gonna set it to false. No, we're gonna call a function that sets here kitty to true, sorry. And then we're going to do on mouse leave where we set it false. Cool. So basically when we move our mouse onto the screen now, this class of curious is going to be added to our image, which translates the image onto the screen. From where? From the bottom of the screen. It looks like. And it looks like it's rotated to the left. So I imagine we're going to get like an arc with a picture of a cat coming back onto the bottom of the screen. But that should leave when my mouse leaves. Why is that not leaving? Oh, it should have been. Nice. Okay, Svelte document. Svelte document element allows you to listen for events that fire on document. This is useful for events like selection change, which doesn't fire on window. Okay. Add the selection change handler to the Svelte document tag. So on selection change, we want to handle the selection change. Okay, and what it's going to do is update the P tag to output what is highlighted. So as we select, we get to see what's highlighted. That's cool. Avoid mouse enter and mouse leave handlers on this element, as these events are not fired on document in all browsers. Okay, use Svelte body instead. Interesting. Svelte head element allows you to insert elements inside the head of your document. This is useful for things like title and meta tags, which are critical for good SEO. Since those are quite hard to show in the context of this tutorial, we use for a different purpose, loading style sheets. Okay. In SSR mode, the contents of Svelte head are returned separately from the rest. Oh, that's interesting. So even if you pre-render your content for your site, the head element is returned separately. Right, so what do we want to do? We want to add in our Svelte's head. Ooh, not so I can spell. Element here. We're going to close it out. And in here, we're going to link our style sheet and our reference for that style sheet. It sits in our style sheets folder. Style sheet. And it's a file named according to our select dropdown. Selected.css. And we close our link here. Ooh. So our site is currently rendered using Margaritaville, but we can change it to space, and that did nothing. Why did that do nothing? What have I missed? href equals open brackets. That's fine. That's fine. What about if we reload it? What have we done differently? Link rel equals style sheet. That looks correct. Style sheet, yeah. href. I'm bound to have a typo. Style sheets, there we go. Right, there we go. Okay. So now when we select CSS, it's swapping between all the different styles. That's pretty cool. Right, Svelte options. The Svelte options element allows you to specify compiler options. Okay. We'll use the immutable option as an example. In this app, the to-do component flashes whenever it receives new data. Clicking on one of these items toggles its done state by creating an updated to-dos array. This causes the other to-do items to flash, even though they don't end up making any changes to the DOM. Okay, we can optimize this by telling the to-do component to expect immutable data. This means that we're promising never to mutate the to-do property, but will instead create new to-do objects whenever things change. Okay. So at the moment, everything's flashing. Okay, so after update, we flash the element. But if we stay at the top here, immutable equals true. What? We can optimize this by telling the to-do component to expect immutable data. This means we're never going to mutate the to-do property. I think my knowledge around this part of the code is a little bit weak, so I kind of understand what's going to happen here, but I also think I don't have a full understanding of why it's happening. So we're basically saying that the array of items in this to-do list, which is this array here, is not changing. So this input here is not being redrawn. In this app, the to-do component flashes whenever it receives new data. Okay, so they specifically built this. Oh, right. Okay, when we run toggled, it's because we're doing something a bit weird here. So when we run toggle on our to-do array, so if the item changes, which is this toggle.todo, so for each to-do item in the list, if we're changing it, so we're calling a toggle on that item, what it's doing is mapping all of the information to a new array. So rather than reusing this to-do array, we're mapping it to a new array with the updated data, which is this new object here. So this array is getting updated every time. But because we've now told it that the to-do export is immutable, it's not going to change. Okay, I think I've got a rough idea of what that's doing. Obviously my terminology is not going to be great for that, but I think that's roughly what's happening. New to-do objects whenever things change. Okay. You can shorten this to Svelte options immutable if you prefer. Okay. Now when you toggle to-dos by clicking on them, only the updated component flashes. I don't think we're going to use that much. It's interesting, but I think I'm going to be avoiding the whole immutable conversation. Fragment. The Svelte fragment element allows you to place content in a name slot without wrapping it in a container DOM element. Okay. In this exercise, we're making a tic-tac-toe game. To form a grid, the button elements in app.svelte should be direct descendants of the class board element in the board.svelte file. Right? At the moment, it's horribly broken because the children of div slot equals game instead. Yeah, these ones. So these buttons are children of this div slot, which is our board here. So we've got a, let's just see. Oh, we can't even see it. So let's fix it. So, right. So rather than using this div, but because we need to slot this into the, because these buttons need to slot into the game slot in here, so that they end up being drawn onto the board, we have to wrap them somehow. But rather than putting a div around them all the time, we can use this svelte fragment instead. And we need to close out the svelte fragment at the bottom instead of our div. Does it do the lines? Yeah, it does. Nice. Cool, okay. Right, so yeah, that's just basically taking out a layer of wrapping. You could have the board on in the app here instead, but it makes more sense for it to be in here so that it can be styled properly in here as well. Okay, yep. Next, module context. What's time? Do we do a little break? Let me just quickly check. Right, okay. Yeah, let's do a little pause here. I'm gonna get some more water. Just take a little screen break. So, where are we? And close that out. Just gonna put screen break. Be right back. And a little timer on here. Cool, back in a little bit. All right. What have we got left? We've got these two left. 1, 2, 3, 4 lessons left. Okay. Let's see how we're doing. Let's clear our screen. Get rid of these ones. And the timer. Cool. Right. So, module context. Sharing code. In all the examples we've seen so far, the script block contains code that runs when each component instance is initialized. For the vast majority of components, that's all you'll ever need. Very occasionally, you'll need to run some code outside of an individual component instance. For example, returning to our custom audio player from a previous exercise, you can play all 4 tracks simultaneously. So we had it where you could put all of them on. Let me just pause our music. So obviously, we don't want to have to do that. It would be better if playing one stops all the others. We can do that by declaring a script context module block. Code contained inside it will run once when the module first evaluates, rather than when a component is instantiated. Place this at the top of the audio player. Note this is a separate script tag. Okay, so we have a script tag that runs for each component, and we're also going to generate this script context equals module. And this tag and this code is run when, what does it say? When the module first evaluates, whatever that means. Let current. Okay, but what that means is we are setting up a property here that only exists once, rather than per instance. So this current property, there's only one version of it in our app, rather than per component, per like player that we're calling here. But we don't want it here, we want it in our audio player. Helps if we listen along. Right? It's now possible for the components to talk to each other without any state management. Cool, right, okay, so on play here, where are we? Where's our audio? Here. Oh, we don't have an on-play function at the moment. Okay, so on play, so when the audio starts playing, we're going to pass that event into this function. Oh, yeah, we can do that. And what we're going to do with that event is we're going to set up a variable called audio that equals our event's current target. And if the audio is not equal to the current, then we're going to pause current.pause if it exists. Could be an empty string. That's what the question mark is alluding to there. And then current is set to our audio that's just been selected. Right, so we have our player with our audio, which is called for each track. And that's our tracks in here. So each instance of our player, which is each line here, we have our audio file, we have a button with the play, we have our class info and the rangefinder and all that kind of stuff. So when we click on play, pause becomes not paused. So on the start playing of our audio file, we take that play event and the target of that play event becomes this audio variable. If that's not equal to current, which sits outside of the individual components, individual instances, then we look at if there is a current audio track playing and we pause it, and then we swap over to current. Okay. So now we start playing something. Maybe. No? Okay, so like Mars. And then we swap over. It pauses Mars and it continues this. You probably want this to reset, but I don't know. Nice. Next, exports. And I think exported from a context module block becomes an export from the module itself. So let's export a stop all function. So export function stop all and current.pause. Right, so we can now import the stop all function from app.svelte in app.svelte. So we've got our audio player as the whole component, but we're also exporting the stop all function, which I think we can do lowercase as well. Was it lowercase here? It was lowercase here. Right, and then use it in an event handler. So where we've got this centered, we can also add in another button. So used to using Emmet. Button with an on-click events that calls the handler stop all. And we're going to give this button some text. It says stop all. Don't know why it's so far down the bottom. But now we can play our tracks which run in our audio component. But we also have a stop all button that triggers regardless of which one is currently playing, because it's using this function which applies to our current context, which is for the whole module rather than the individual instances. Okay. Nice. Oh, I put it in the wrong part of app.svelte, that's why. I had it below the div. You can't have a default export because the component is the default. Right, okay. So this audio player is the default export from this file. So we can't have another default. Up next, miscellaneous. The debug tag. Occasionally it's useful to inspect a piece of data as it flows through your app. One approach to this is to use console log inside your markup. If you want to pause execution though, you can use the @debug tag with a comma separate list of values you want to inspect. Whoa, wait, really? So instead of our console log user here, we're just going to do at debug user. No. So we open the dev tool. Let's pop this over to the side a little bit more. Wait, how did we just restart? So we console logged our name here. So rather than having this printing out each time, what are we going to get? We're going to get something useful. At debug user. Huh? What? Would help if I knew how this thing works. Let user no, that's oh wait, we're having an issue with the reloading. It might not be meant to be reloading like this. But yeah, we're getting this output of user instead. Oh, which we can't access now. Let's give it a refresh and see if that helps it. But basically it's taking us directly to this. Let's let it restart. Might as well have it solved. But actually, yeah, we might be at the end of this bit of the tutorial. What do you reckon? Yeah, I don't think it's meant to be refreshing. I think we've run into the same bug again that we were getting before. I don't know what's causing this. I've got all of the extensions disabled on this. What if we jump it out like this? Is this working? Yeah, because the username has changed. We've now got this to pause. What if we changed it? I wonder if this is our version of this. Yeah, it looks like it is. Okay. So rather than user, if we did something like let's just do $. So we want to do a test. So can we do user dot first name? Right, we've got to break this first. So user dot first name. Triple equals test. Right, that's true or false like that, right? And then if we debug on test instead, let me see if this is going to work how I think it is. So shouldn't trigger the debug at all, but if we set the first name to test, that triggers our test because the value of test changes and that triggers the debug. And what we can do is we can have a look in here where it's just triggered and figure out something. Our test true. How do we see values though? Can we watch test? Not available. I think I need to learn how to use this debugger. Unless it tells me here. I think it's worth looking into that in a bit more detail. That looks like it's useful, but I don't have enough knowledge to understand quite what I'm looking at. So I'll come back to that at some point. Right, next steps. Now finish the Svelte tutorial and are ready to start building. The next two parts of the tutorial will focus on Sveltekit, a full-fledged framework for creating apps of all shapes and sizes. If you're suffering from information overload and aren't ready to go through to the tutorial yet, don't worry, you can use your existing Svelte knowledge without learning all of Sveltekit. Just run this in your terminal and follow the prompts, and start editing the roots page.svelte when you're ready. Nice. There we go. So that is the end of the Svelte part of the Sveltekit tutorial. I think I'm going to end there with the learning at the moment because this is the whole next part of the project. So I'm going to say that for the next stream because it's like a nicer cut-off point. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up there. It's a bit of a shorter stream, but we didn't have as much to do as I thought was still left. We can have a little look. So this is going to take us through what is Sveltekit, routing, loading data, headers and cookies, shared modules, forms, API routes, stores, and errors. That should, I think, just be one stream. I think I can get through all of that. And then let's see, this might be 2 streams because the advanced stuff seems to be a little bit more confusing. Cheers for hanging out, Scooby Dooby. Hopefully it's been interesting or useful information. I think some of this stuff, especially in the advanced categories, just gets into quite niche examples, so they're not always the most useful, but I think having a reference point to go back to, so I know that over the last like 3 streams I've covered basic Svelte stuff, so yeah, I think it's useful to have it all in the stream to refer back to, as when I'm starting to build the actual full websites and stuff like that, I can just jump to the specific point in the VOD to figure out what I need to do. Hopefully. You've been having a great time lurking. Thank you. As you're playing OSRS. What's OSRS? I'm trying to figure out what OSRS. Oh, old school RuneScape. Nice. RuneScape was one that I never really got into. I think I played it maybe about an hour in total. But I think I was into... There's a game called Ragnarok that was about that time. That was my MMORPG. Yeah. I mean, all RPGs are pretty grindy though. But yeah, Ragnarok was good fun. But yeah, cheers for hanging out and lurking. I don't know when I'm next going to be streaming. Hopefully, I might be able to do a stream tomorrow. Depends. I've got a night shift tonight, so maybe not tomorrow. But tomorrow or Friday, fingers crossed. And we'll be continuing with some basic Sveltekit. So a bit more in terms of the full framework that surrounds Svelte, which is very useful. But yeah, thanks for the lurk. Thanks for hanging out. And anyone else who's been lurking in the background. I hope you have a good rest of the week. And I'll catch you next time. I always start saying all this and then I remember I've actually got to set up my end screen before I can transfer over to it. But yeah, cheers everyone. Have a good week and catch you next time. Thanks, bye.